Okay, before I start with this video, I have to address something. CyberPunk 2077 does not work unless you have an updated version of Windows. For complicated technical, registry-related reasons that I'd rather not get into, my computer flat out refused to update for months despite my best efforts. Long story short, I had no choice but to back up everything to an external hard drive and reinstall my entire system. I spent an entire day reinstalling Windows for the express purpose of playing CyberPunk 2077. I am angry, I am tired, and I am miserable. So the ultimate question is CyberPunk 2077 worth all the trouble? Something you should know about me when it comes to games is that I'm a very old-fashioned kind of guy. I just like games that are good, you know what I mean? And I'm intensely skeptical and resistant to a lot of new games. Even for games that look cool, it's become very difficult for me to get hype about anything, and there are a number of factors at play there. First off is something that I really don't want to admit, but I can no longer run from. The truth is, Phantom Bane is getting old. I'm not as youthful or energetic or optimistic as I was when I first started the channel. My sleep schedule is terrible, my back hurts for no reason, my hair is falling out, and things that shouldn't piss me off are starting to piss me off quite a lot. And when it comes to video games, all of this is made worse by the fact that pessimism has plagued the industry and culture for almost a decade now, with a constant stream of disappointment and lies that continues to this day. It feels like every day there's a new story about false advertising, shady practices, worker abuse, and general scumminess, and I'm just completely fatigued from hearing about it all. And yet, despite all of that, CyberPunk still stuck out in my mind. And with delay after delay after delay, I felt like whatever the end result was just had to be a very excellent and polished product. I mean, they took so many years to make it, it has to be good, right? Yeah, sure. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm certain you've heard this quote before. Sadly, it seems as though the gaming community keeps getting fooled. The relationship between gamers and the developers is like a marriage with an alcoholic spouse. Constantly, they just lie and manipulate you. And then when you call them out, they start crying and saying, "Oh, I'll change, honey, I can change." And then at the first sign of optimism and forgiveness, they just go right back on their old bullshit. I think there's a hotel for that kind of thing. CyberPunk 2077 was one of the few upcoming games that I was actually interested in. Of course, little did I know that the game would personify every single problem I just mentioned. In retrospect though, I should have known better. But the cyberpunk genre has just about every single advantage for being made into a video game. Flashy lights, futuristic technology, evil corporations, all of that just screams video games. And when you think about it, video games themselves are a dystopian cyberpunk technology. What does a video game do? It fabricates a fictional world that is designed to make us feel powerful and to appeal to our most primal desires, distracting us while our corporate overlords in the real world keep devising new ways to make our lives worse for their own gain, kinda like the brain dance technology everyone in Night City uses. We accept the fiction they provide and follow their orders exactly as intended. The uniqueness of the human condition is slowly snuffed out as we all use these affordable machines and nearly identical fake experiences as the only viable substitute to a real primal lived experience uninhibited by our unwavering obedience and colloquially understood responsibility to our bosses and our governments and our politicians and our thought leaders. It used to be that people went out and found themselves, but now we're being manufactured into mass-produced fake people. We're all being conditioned to think the same things and to view things within the same parameters, everyone listening to the same music and watching the same movies and walking away with the same impression while asking no questions about the very real problems in our own world. Poverty, sickness, starvation, corruption, powerful, respected people committing repugnant crimes that nobody is aware of because it's simply omitted from the mainstream flow of information. There are questions that we're not allowed to ask, conversations we're not allowed to have. We don't ask serious questions because nobody else will, and we're too afraid to imagine or to fight for another world because we've been told for our entire lives that this is the peak of human civilization and that any deviation will cast us into an age of darkness and anguish, and it takes too much energy to seek truth in the world when one can easily concede that social media media websites and corporate news outlets are the sole arbiters of truth who have no ulterior motives and would not lie to us for any reason. In other words, video games fun, buy another Dreamcast. Anyways, CD Projekt Red is supposed to be a world-renowned developer due in no small part to The Witcher 3. Now those of you who have seen my video on that game already know how I feel, but if you missed it, prepare yourself. I do not care for this game. I played it from start to finish, and on a technical level, the game is great. You got this atmospheric music, great art direction and acting, but after 5 hours, I realized that the game felt very shallow and repetitive and unengaging. Even on the second hardest difficulty, all I could think was, oh shit, this game still has 50 hours left. And I had to play all that, because as a general principle, I don't like to review games if I haven't made it to the end credits screen at least once. CyberPunk is trying to be completely different though. No riding horses for 7 years, no hoarding plants to sell for a fucking nickel, just running around a futuristic city to make a name for yourself. And it's supposed to have all kinds of different gameplay features that lend themselves better to deeper, more intricate gameplay than just rolling around and mashing light attack. But trying is trying, and doing is doing. CyberPunk truly is a next generation video game, and when I say next generation, I mean this is the first game I played where I cannot get it to run at 1080p and 60 FPS even at the lowest settings. CyberPunk has forced the sad truth on me that my computer, much like myself, is out of date, and I need to replace all my shit one day. And I know you're saying, just lower the resolution, and you know I'm saying, no. Now, I just got done reinstalling fucking Windows and spending $90 on a video game, so I'm not exactly in a position to upgrade my computer. The only comfort I can take is knowing the huge bullet I dodged by not getting the PS4 version. I thought I was having a rough time trying to squeeze 1080-60 out of my 3.5-year-old rig, but goddamn, last-gen console users just got completely dick-smashed here, and I honestly feel bad for anyone whose only option was to play it that way. It's hard to tell how much of this is poor optimization or if the game really just is that ambitious that most people don't have the horsepower to adequately run it, but judging from the game's general stability in other respects, I'd say it's at least a combination of the two. The best way I can describe Cyberpunk 2077 is by saying that it's the video game equivalent of bipolar disorder. One second, this is the best game I've ever played in my life. Next second, it's an unacceptable piece of garbage. Like, how do people defend this game? 1 minute, I'm hacking shit, distracting enemies, stealth killing everyone and looting everything, crafting items, soaking in this massive immersive world and shooting the shit with Keanu Reeves. Next minute, I don't know what the game is doing. The glitches range from random, weird, and funny stuff to very annoying shit that directly impedes the game experience. There's one mission I literally can't complete because the game refuses to spawn the guy I'm supposed to kill. There was another where I kept spawning in the driver's seat while Pan Am was driving, which was terrifying. Sometimes you get permanently locked into scan mode until you quit the game. Sometimes grabbing glitches out and you get stuck in an infinite animation loop, leaving you completely vulnerable to everything until you die or reload a checkpoint. This guy saw me through a fucking building. There was this bug where the foliage started displaying over everything else, and no matter what I did, it wouldn't stop, so the game was just permanently stuck like this. The driving is somehow even worse than the horse in Witcher, and also, one day the game decided that I'm not allowed to drive in third person mode anymore, no matter how many times I pressed Q. Keep in mind that I'm playing this over a month after release, so they've already patched a number of bugs. But not these ones apparently. There's no sugarcoating it. The game is not finished. When you're playing a game, any game, without exception, the enjoyment of the game depends very heavily on the player's trust in the game's structural integrity, that mutual understanding between the game and the player that this is how this works, and it is working as intended. Small, specific, occasional bugs are pretty much unavoidable in the best games, but if these things happen too frequently, that trust is broken, and when that trust breaks, it can be very difficult to enjoy the game. You start second-guessing yourself, and you get into these weird ritualistic habits because you don't know what stupid little thing is gonna break next, and it gets so bad that when something legitimate happens, you can't help but question it anyway. Cyberpunk unfortunately crossed that line on many occasions for the 72 hours of my playthrough, and it sucks because when the game wasn't pulling this shit, I was honestly really enjoying it. This game offers a magnum dong avalanche of content, and the fundamentals of the game are more engaging than many other open world games I've played. And a lot of the time, I was pretty into the story and atmosphere. I really hate to say it, but I think this game should have been delayed further. Supposedly, it was released as early as it was in this state to appease shareholders, which is actually really hilarious because a massive theme in the game is a growing anti-corporate sentiment among the population of Night City. Fucking corpos ruining the video games again. I knew it. Here's the deal. CD Projekt Red wanted to make something the size and scale of GTA 5, except even better than GTA 5, because instead of having boring-ass linear Rockstar missions that treat you like a baby that has to be told exactly how to do everything, you have more dynamic and interesting stealth game stuff you can do. So a game as big as GTA with gameplay that's far more intricate and engaging. Sounds like a great idea, and they did succeed in some respects. To achieve this, they had a budget of $330 million US, 90% of which was probably just to get Keanu on board, which makes it possibly the most expensive video game ever developed. So you got a team and a budget bigger than GTA 5 by a substantial margin to make a game that's supposed to be bigger and better. It sounds like it'll just work on paper. But remember, Rockstar has been making these ridiculously huge open-world drivey-shooty games for several decades. Meanwhile, CD Projekt Red has been making Witchers, so you can throw around as much money and as many team members as you want, but there's still the element of familiarity. Now, I've never made a video game, but that's the theory I have for why the game is the way it is. They just simply haven't made a game quite like this before, so they're trying to figure it out on the job. I mean, it could also be poor management, but Witcher 3, as much as I dislike it, was still largely stable 85% of the time, so I don't know. In any case, CyberPunk does not have anywhere near the level of polish that something like GTA 5 has, and that can really screw up the immersion. That being said, CyberPunk is, at its most fundamental level, still a fun video game. It's not as crazy as these games, but it still offers a ton of options in how you approach everything. It doesn't force your hand into doing everything one way. You have the hacking and the stealth, you got these additional perks you can buy, you have all these guns you can modify, you can craft materials anywhere without running back and forth between a craftsman guy for 7 hours. There's all kinds of customization options, you can choose between 6 different penis options. And unlike Witcher 3, you can actually have gay sex. Now tell me this isn't a good video game. Usually when I play games like this, I like to clean up all the side missions so that I'm broken as shit by the time I get to the actual story. When I took that approach in Witcher 3, I got pretty bored and decided fairly quickly that it didn't matter. Cyberpunk, on the other hand, was way more fun. Maybe it's just because I have America brain and I think guns are more fun than swords, but whatever the reason, I had a much more enjoyable time with this game, and I didn't get tired of stealth hacking and stealthing around my enemies nearly as quickly as I did with rolling around and mashing light attack. Shit's just fun, yo. One thing I really love about Cyberpunk is character customization. In a lot of other games, character customization, as opposed to a fleshed out protagonist, just takes me out of the experience. You have all these characters who have all their own backstories and relationships with each other, and then your guy shows up, he's just completely disconnected from everything that's happening, and whenever they refer to you, it's either by some pronoun or they give you a nickname, and your character is just completely silent and has no emotional attachment or significance to anything. To me, they are the single greatest threat to any kind of immersion or attachment to the game world that I could have had. The only time I can recall really enjoying playing as a custom character was in Saints Row 3 and 4, because you can choose between different voices and they all have their own story dialogue and character development. I mean, Saints Row isn't exactly profound, but no matter what, your custom character always feels like they fit in with the rest of the game's world. And that's where V comes in, because no matter which route you take or which customization options you choose, V is an actual character with dialogue and thoughts and feelings. And unlike Saints Row, the story is actually kind of serious and interesting. It's not perfect, it can be a little disjointed, they do spend a lot of time retreading territory you've already discussed, and the dialogue trees can be very boring at times and give me the same feeling that Witcher's dialogue trees gave me, but in general I did find it more interesting. Most of the characters in this game are great. Do you guys remember the characters from Witcher 3? I don't. And I actually beat it. Character, story, and atmosphere-wise, I was way more into this game than Witcher. There's Jackie, Pan Am, Victor, Johnny Silverhand, who is probably one of my favorite characters in a video game. He's a huge piece of shit wisecracking dickweed, but you just love him. There's Denim, who repeatedly makes references to GLaDOS from Portal.
I'm going to kill you, and all the cake is gone. I honestly, truly didn't think you'd fall for that.
Okay, that's enough.
There was this side mission with this dude who asked me to help kill this other dude, Joshua, who was being moved around in a police car. But then the police killed him, and Joshua, who I was supposed to kill, steps out of the car, and it is revealed that he is a mass murderer who sees himself as some kind of Jesus figure seeking some kind of divine redemption for the atrocities he committed. And at the end of the quest line, you crucify him on camera, and this crazy bitch turns it into a viral TV show. That was a trip.
He's fucked in the head. The world's fucked in the head. And you're fucked in the head because my fucked up head is inside it.
What do you think? God exists?
Fuck. Kill me, please.
Oh yeah, Kojima is also in the game. After years of putting himself into all of his games, that mad lad found a way into a game he had nothing to do with. Gotta respect that. The world of Night City is also very cool. At times. When it's not bugging out beyond reality, it has a way of being very intoxicating with the extreme constant noise and light pollution and over-sexualized culture. It feels very gross after a while, which I think is the point. This is a sick and dying world that hypnotizes people with its flashing lights and shiny things. It also makes much better use of verticality than a lot of its contemporaries. Open world games have often felt fake to me. There are worlds that are huge and full of ridiculous detail, but only a small percentage of it ends up being significant on the gameplay end. Los Santos, this is a huge and beautiful world, but a good chunk of it is basically a diorama to me. And then when you enter the mission, suddenly the open world aspect doesn't matter anymore because now you have to do every single thing in a super specific way, and if you deviate from that at all, you fail the mission. CyberPunk, by comparison, remembers that it's an open world game and allows you to use various mechanics in your own way to beat its many challenges and obstacles. As for the world feeling more real, it does have its moments. Of course, the bugging tends to break the immersion pretty quickly. In the beginning, this game kept me on my toes with all the enemies and drones and cameras and getting hacked with stuff. It was pretty tough at times, granted I was playing on the hard difficulty. That is, until I discovered that some guns can actually shoot people through 20 feet of concrete. Once I discovered this, it was doomsday for this game. At first I thought maybe it was some kind of glitch, but then I realized that maybe it was a perk or an upgrade or a weapon-specific thing that I didn't notice because it was tucked away into some extensive tutorial that I missed. That's when I contacted my friend Leo K. Now Leo knows way more about this game than I do, so before writing the script I had to ask him to make sure I wasn't being an idiot. So I asked him basically word for word, is it normal in Cyberpunk to be able to shoot a bitch through 20 feet of concrete? And his response was, yes, welcome to Night City. And that's when I realized that this was the best game ever made. Also, you should subscribe to Leo if you like stealth games. Now, I know shooting enemies through surfaces isn't exactly a new or even a glitchy thing, like I played Call of Duty. I've been shot through walls in a house before. Although I feel like it's a little bit different than shooting a bitch through 20 feet of solid concrete. On some level, I want to say that it's stupid, but it's just way too damn fun. And even though part of me wants to feel bad, this game is still a technical mess that could crash and die at any second with zero warning. Which it did for me on several occasions, so I quickly got over it. You know what? I like this game. No, really, it's good. I don't know if it's $313 million budget over a 7-year development period good, but I did enjoy it. So far, I've only seen 2 of the ending scenarios, but I can definitely see myself going back and finding everything else. It doesn't have the polish that GTA 5 does, and the writing and story can't always match the prestige of Rockstar games.
Jimmy, ain't it? Or James?
Jimmy, or just like Jizzle?
But the player is granted way more freedom and given more tools to approach the situations the game throws at you. All they gotta do is fix the fucking game. I like it, but I also feel that it should be better, and on that I'm sure everyone can agree. And just because they didn't finish this game properly, I decided I'm not even gonna end the video properly. So here's a penguin. Meh.